With an acoustic camera, you can actually see sound. Let's find out more. Hi and welcome to Bytes and Bits. We're all very used to the idea of using our mobile phones, and the camera's on there to take sort of photographs and videos. And of course, these devices are detecting and recording visible light. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know that you can buy little add-ons for your mobile phone, and that will then turn it into a thermal camera. So these particular devices then are looking at the infrared end of the electromagnetic spectrum, and of course that's where it can actually then start to see heat. Now, one of the things which I hadn't actually come across before is an acoustic camera, and that's what one of these things here is. So these allow you to actually see, or at least to visualize sound. And that's what we're going to be having a look at in this video. So luckily, the company called Fotric have sent me across one of their TD2 Geek Acoustic cameras. And this again attaches onto your mobile phone to turn that into a device which will allow you to actually see the sounds in front of you. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what this is, how it works, and then see what you can actually do with it and what you can use it for. So let's have a look first of all at how these acoustic cameras work. So we first need to have a look at what sound actually is. So when an object vibrates, it uses this vibration energy to push and pull the air particles around it. So these particles then in turn push and pull the air particles around them, and so on. So this vibration energy then gets transferred through the air in the form of a sound wave. And that's basically then these molecules going through compression and rarefaction. So if you remember back to your physics lessons, this is called a longitudinal wave. So these waves, they travel at a set velocity according to whatever medium they're passing through. So for air, this is around about 340 meters per second at sea level. So when that wave carrying this vibration energy hits your ear or a microphone, it transfers some of the energy into vibrating either your eardrum or the diaphragm of the microphone. And that's when we can detect the actual sound and convert it into some sort of signal that we can then either hear or we can use within our electronics. Now, an acoustic camera uses the fact that these sound waves travel at a specific speed from the sound source to the sound detector. So if you think about a firework exploding, if you were standing right next to it, you would hear it almost instantly. But if you're standing far away, you'll see the explosion, but the sound will actually take a short while to travel towards you. So this difference in distance causes a time delay between the two detectors. Now, if you now think about your ears, so they are actually a short distance apart either side of your head. So any sound to either side of you will take slightly longer to reach one ear than the other, and this is how our brain is able to detect the general direction of sounds. So our acoustic camera then is doing exactly the same thing as your ears, just a whole lot better. Now we can actually see this happening by setting up a small test rig. So this is the basic setup that we're going to use for this little experiment then. So if I have a look down here first, I have two little microphones which are connected up here to a 5-volt supply. And those are going to be, in effect, those are going to mimic our ears, the two ears on either side of our head. I then of course have that attached up to my oscilloscope. So I have here a yellow trace coming out of this microphone and a green trace coming out of this microphone. At the moment I've only got the one showing on the screen. I can of course turn the second channel on and we've now got two channels showing. We're going to use, so at the moment you can see on the screen there, the microphone is picking up my voice and that's what you're seeing the waveform of. But we're going to use a little speaker here and a tone generator app on this tablet. So if I turn that on, You can see there that we're getting, again, if I stop talking, you can see that we're getting there a nice sine wave, which is the output from the speaker being then picked up by the microphone itself. So that's what we're going to be using then to mimic a sound moving around, and we're going to have a look and see what happens as regards the two traces from these microphones. So let's turn on the second channel again. We'll turn back on our let me get rid of this advertising here. Turn back on our sound generator. So our speaker now is acting as a single point sound source. And as you can see on the oscilloscope that we've got the waveforms from each microphone. Now as I line the speaker up in the centre of the two microphones, you can see the traces are exactly in phase. Now this is because the distances from the speaker to each microphone is the same, so the sound waves reach the sensors at exactly the same time. If I now move the speaker to the left, you can see that the green trace starts to move to the right of the yellow trace. So this shows that it is taking longer to reach the microphone due to the longer distance the sound wave has to travel. If I now move the speaker over to the right, we can see that the traces start to come together, and then the green trace moves to the left of the yellow trace. So this is showing the sound wave is reaching the right-hand speaker sooner than the left, and again this is due to the relative distances that the sound wave has to travel. So by looking at the alignment of the two microphone signals, we can calculate what's known as a phase difference, and this gives us an idea of which direction the sound is coming from. Now with just two microphones, we can see, at least in this setup, a left to right direction. But if I move the speaker into and out of the frame, the traces show no change. And again, this is because the relative distances to the microphones don't change. So the Fotric sensor takes this phase difference comparison to another level. It uses 64 microphones, which are the smaller holes on the front of the sensor. The larger hole in the centre then is a normal light camera, which it uses then to show the scene we're looking at. So the data from each of these 64 microphones is then processed to separate the individual sounds, and then these sounds are compared across the whole microphone array. Now the process is obviously a lot more complicated than our simple phase difference experiment, but it's actually based on that same basic principle. So this lets the sound camera calculate the direction of each sound precisely so that it can then build up a picture of where, how loud, and what frequencies it can hear. So the sound map then is superimposed on the light camera image, and that lets us visualize the sound information on top of what we can actually see with our eyes. So let's have a look at the actual camera itself. So if I take this box out of the way, what you get is obviously the actual acoustic camera device itself. So that everything is contained inside this one unit. This contains a rechargeable battery. So there is a charging port, a USB-C charging port on the base here. And that then, of course, charges this. We have a power indicator and a charge indicator on the side of it here. And then on the other side, we then have the USB-C connection. So that's the data connection to your phone. And your phone then, of course, is going to mount on a holder on the back here. So the actual device itself then, as I said, on the front of it then, we have our light camera, or our normal camera there. So that is a 5 megapixel camera. And we then have this array. So each of these individual holes, and behind each of those is a microphone. So there are 64 microphones in there, which create our microphone array. So this then is in a nice solid metal case. So it's a really well made piece of kit. So we have here sort of tightening nuts to sort of secure it onto various holders that I'll show you in a second. So that's the main part of what you're getting in the actual acoustic camera itself. So along with that, we get various mounting devices. So we have sort of a handheld, so you can actually sort of grab that as sort of like a trigger grip, and the camera mounts on top of that. We then have your phone holder here. So that is expandable here, which will accept your phone, and that generally mounts then on the back of the camera here. So the basic idea is that we mount that on the back of the acoustic camera. The handheld device attaches on there, and you then have sort of like a gun device that you can then sort of point at whatever you're wanting to hear. So those bits there go together, and we have another optional bracket here. So again, there's various ways in which you can mount this together, depending on how you want to use the actual device. Connection, as I said, is over USB-C. So we have a short cable here, which is USB-C to USB-C. So that is the connection from the camera itself to your smartphone, which will be mounted somewhere here. So we have that short USB cable there. We then have a USB-C charging cable. So that, of course, lets you just charge up this device itself. Other than that, really, we have a manual. So the manual that you get in the box is really a very brief one of how to put things together. It doesn't really talk much about the operation of it. And you do get a sort of carrying bag just to protect it when the actual camera is not in use. So that's really what you have in there. So that's what you get in the box. So let's have a look and see how we put it together and how we actually use it. To use the acoustic camera then, of course, we're going to need a phone to attach to. Now, at the moment, the device is Android only. I'm not sure if they're planning on bringing out an Apple version, but at the moment then it does need to be an Android-based smartphone. So really the way this works then is we have our phone holder here, and that's going to connect onto the back of the device. So we have that screw coming out. We have then these tightening bolts, these tightening knobs here. So really we just simply tighten that up, and again you can mount it either sort of having your phone vertical or horizontal, and that just allows you then to set that up. So I'm just going to put this in here, and I'm just going to mount mine horizontally. So that goes on there, and that then allows you to mount your phone in on the back of this expandable connector. So it just simply slides in there. Our connection then to the device is through this cable here. So we just simply need to plug that into your USB port on your phone, and then into the data port on the acoustic camera. So we now have a sort of a handheld version that you can use as you want. If you want to use the actual handle itself, that attaches onto the base of the phone holder. So again, that fits in there, and we have these very handy little thumb wheels that we can use. So if I tighten that up, and that then gives us, once I get that tightened up, that then gives us an actual device that we can then point at things. So it becomes very easy then to use that to actually point the camera at our actual targets. So that's sort of is setting it up there. After that then, of course, we do need to install some software. So let's have a look at that, and then let's have a look at what features that software has. So the acoustic camera uses Fotric's own Genie software to do the visualization on the phone itself. So you just need to head across to the Google Play Store and download and install that application. So I have that running just over here. So the main screen on this is the Explore screen, which is really just sort of new information about what's happening within the company and products and so on. But we want, of course, to get to the device, the gallery, and the Me sections. So if we have a look in the Me section first, this allows us in the image overlay bit to just show a numeric pressure level on our screen. So you've already seen that we've got that sort of sound pressure map overlay on the screen. But again, that allows us to just put a number beside it. But I'm just going to leave that off for now. There is access then, of course, to the full user manual. So inside here, then you will get all the information about how to set it up. And then a bit lower down, it talks you through the various modes in the software. But we're going to have a look at those in a second. Once you get into the software, it is actually quite easy to use. There are not that many options to choose from, but we're going to look at them now. So coming back out of that, the gallery, of course, is you are able to take both video and photos of your scenes, and that, of course, will have both the visual scene with this heat map, well, sound map area imposed on it. And again, that is real-time video if you want it. And I'm going to be showing a few of the examples of sounds I've been recording in a second. So of course that's fairly standard then. The main thing of course is this device section, which actually lets us get to the acoustic camera itself. So once you've plugged it all together, we simply need to connect the device. And that will then go through, there are a few security options you have to allow and permissions within your phone before it actually gets to this stage here. But again, you just simply follow the prompts and that will take you here. So what we're looking at now is the view through the acoustic camera's light normal camera in the center there. So we're seeing the scene that the camera is looking at, and of course it's measuring all the sound pressure levels around there, trying to identify where sounds are coming from, and you can see these various blobs appearing. So there are a number of modes in which we can run this. So if I click on this little arrow at the side here, we have a single source mode, which is where it is at the moment. And what it's doing is it's looking at the view. Now the camera itself, it is a forward-facing sensor. So it only looks at what's in front of it, or sounds coming in from in front of it. It has about a 60-degree viewing angle. So all the way around, it will see a 60-degree a viewport over which it can then overlay this sound map details. You can change it from the single sound source, so where it's just identifying the loudest sound and plotting that on the screen. You can then set a multi one, where it really it filters out low-level sounds and is really just picking up on the higher level sounds. And again, at the moment, because I'm sat just a couple of feet away from the sensor itself, you're picking up various sound reflections coming up off the top surface of my desk. I'll be putting the speaker on in a second. And then the last one down the bottom here then, so the multi, of course, then is just, it filters out the lower level sounds and is showing them multiple louder level sound sources within the view. The last one is a hologram, which is really just going to look at the general sound pressure level across the screen and gives you this sort of, I don't know what you would call it, a contour map there of sound pressure levels. Down the bottom of the screen, you can see that we now have a histogram. And this then is showing you the sound within the various frequencies. So the sensor itself is able to detect sounds from 2 kilohertz at the low level down here up to 50 kilohertz, which of course is well into the ultrasound. You can get it then to limit itself to particular ranges. So if I click on this range button here, you can see that we can focus in on audible sound frequencies. So if I click on that, we're now focusing in on audible sound frequencies. Let me come off this sort of hologram one and go back to the single source. So we're back into single source here. So you can see that that is now focusing in on audible frequencies. So you're very much being able to see where my voice is being reflected off that top surface. Or we can put it into ultrasound, so above 20 kilohertz. And again, you can see now that my voice has been cancelled out of it or filtered out of the device. And it's only now looking at that. There's one little spot up top there, which is probably, I have a transformer powered device just sitting up above it there. So it's probably picking up some of the ultrasound coming out of that. But if we go back then into our audible sound, you will see then that we have these. You're never going to be in a totally silent environment or very infrequently. So of course it's going to be picking up sort of spurious sounds as they happen around you. But we have a focus mode over here. And what that does, it really says, okay, I want to sort of filter out all of the surrounding sounds and really just concentrate on this central area. So you can see that we have our speaker sitting in there. You're still seeing some overlapping sound from the outside, but we're getting rid of a lot of that overlay. So if I actually turn that speaker on, we should find that we start to get a view of that. So let me just turn that on. So there we have, I've got some just general sort of music coming out through that speaker. And you can see that if I shut up for a second, you'll see that the device is correctly seeing the speaker as producing the most sound in the scene, and then is putting the contour map and showing you exactly where that sound source is located. And again, it's pretty accurate, as you can see. So again, that lets the focus then, you can see that all of the extraneous sounds here, which of course are me talking in the background, are all filtered out. So if we go back into sort of normal mode, you can see there that it's mostly picking up the speaker as the loudest sound. But as I raise my voice a bit, you can see that some of my reflections then of course are coming up on there. So that is really how you use this device. As I said, there's not that many options on it. We can really just say I want to look at audible frequencies, or for certain industrial applications and other applications, you might want to go into the ultrasound to pick up on those. So again, you can filter out either way round, and by just simply as a click of a button. But if we come back into here, so the last things then, of course, are we're able to rotate the screen round depending on how you've aligned your phone with the device itself. And of course, we then have both videoing and photography that we can take there. And of course, that will record the whole sound with, of course, the overlays. So that's really how we operate the camera. So let's have a look at see what you can do with it, and we'll show you a few examples of what I've been listening to. So the Fotric website does have a few examples of what you can use these acoustic cameras for, and that ranges from various nature-based things to industrial and technical uses. Obviously, music and singing and so on is a big application area for this, and of course then education. So again, I've been looking at a few of these, so let's see what results I've been getting. From a technical point of view and sort of looking at electronics, well, any device which has sort of a transformer built into it will of course generate a small hum, and the device is very good at picking up any of these. Looking at sort of automotive applications, looking at a car engine here, you can see that it does pick out the individual parts of the engine that are making the most sound. From a gas diagnostics point of view, again, a lot of people use these for seeing compressed air or any sort of gas leakage. I didn't actually have one around, so I'm just using a bit of a tube here. And you can see that it is very cleverly picking up the hiss, even though it's sort of almost inaudible from the end of the tube. I then took the acoustic camera on a walk around our local park. And again, you can see here that it's very good at pinpointing things. So this particular crow, he literally was shouting out that he wanted to be filmed. And again, it shows you here that, again, with a nice quiet background, the device is very, very good at pinpointing the exact source of the sound. I did use it as well in the dawn chorus outside in our garden. And again, here, we can't see anything, but we have got access to where these birds are. So obviously there's a lot of sort of extraneous noise, which I guess is sort of the trees rustling and so on. But when a bird does sound and makes a louder sound, the system very quickly focuses in on that and lets you pinpoint where that bird actually is. So finally then, on the music side of things, obviously the sound that your instruments produce, you can visualize that using this camera. So here my son is playing his violin, and as you can see we have the sound then coming out of the F holes on that. And then of course if we move across to the piano, you can see there that the various strings as he plays are all then being highlighted by the acoustic camera. So a really useful device. So I hope you find this useful. I will put links out to the Fotric website where you can get hold of this camera. Price wise, it does come in a little bit pricey at around about $600. But again, it is a very useful device to have if sound is an important thing for you in whatever you are doing. So I hope you find this interesting. Please do click that like button and subscribe to the channel for more electronics, test equipment, making and gaming projects. I look forward to seeing you again soon, and bye for now.